Picture this. You wake up on what seems like an ordinary Tuesday morning. Maybe you grab a quick breakfast, check your phone, wave goodbye to your family. You have absolutely no idea that in exactly 18 hours, your entire world will be buried under 20 feet of volcanic ash, preserving your final moments for the next 2,000 years. This isn't some disaster movie plot. This is the true story of Pompeii, and what happened there will shock you. On August 24th, 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius didn't just erupt. It unleashed a catastrophe so devastating that it literally froze an entire Roman city in time. But here's what most people don't know. The latest archaeological discoveries are revealing secrets that completely change everything we thought we knew about that day. We're talking about political scandals written in graffiti that would make today's Twitter drama look tame. Love letters carved into walls that are more romantic than anything on Netflix. And evidence of heroism and tragedy so intense, it'll leave you questioning how you'd react in the same situation. By the end of this video, you'll know the real story of Pompeii, not the sanitized version from school textbooks, but the raw, human, absolutely mind-blowing truth about what happens when an entire civilization gets caught off guard by nature's fury. And trust me, what they found in those ruins recently, it's going to change how you think about ancient history forever. Before we witness one of history's most perfectly preserved disasters, you need to understand something crucial. Pompeii wasn't some sleepy ancient village. This place was basically the Las Vegas of the Roman Empire, and I'm about to prove it. Picture a city of 15,000 people, where the streets were lined with what can only be described as ancient fast food joints. These weren't just simple food stalls. We're talking about elaborate restaurants called thermopolia, with decorated counters, hot food ready to go, and menus that would make your local food truck jealous. But wait until you hear what archaeologists found in one of these places just 3 years ago. It's going to blow your mind. The graffiti alone tells a story that Hollywood couldn't make up. We're not talking about simple "Marcus was here" scratches. These walls were covered with political campaigns, business advertisements, love confessions, and jokes so crude they get you banned from social media today. One piece of graffiti literally reads, "I screwed the barmaid." And that's one of the milder examples. Here's what's absolutely incredible. Pompeii had a water system that most modern cities would envy. Fresh mountain water flowed through lead pipes to public fountains, private homes, and elaborate bathhouses where people didn't just get clean. They socialized, made business deals, and gossiped about their neighbors. Sound familiar? Let me ask you something. How many of you have ever posted a photo of your food on Instagram? Well, guess what? The Pompeians were doing the ancient equivalent 2,000 years ago. Their restaurants had painted menus showing exactly what foods they served, complete with artistic presentations. But here's where it gets really wild. In 2019, archaeologists discovered a perfectly preserved snack bar. And I mean perfectly preserved. The food containers still had traces of the actual meals inside. Duck, goat, fish, crushed fava beans mixed with wine, basically an ancient energy drink. They were eating better than most of us do today. The social scene was absolutely crazy. The amphitheater could hold 20,000 people. That's more than the city's entire population. They were drawing crowds from hundreds of miles away for gladiator fights, wild animal hunts, and entertainment spectacles that would make the Super Bowl look like a small-town fair. Surprising fact hook. And here's something that'll shock you. DNA analysis completed just 2 years ago revealed that Pompeii was more diverse than modern New York City. We're talking people from Egypt, Greece, North Africa, Central Asia. This was a true melting pot where at least a dozen languages were spoken daily. The economy was booming, on multiple levels. Yes, they had incredible wine. The volcanic soil made their grapes legendary across the empire. But they were also manufacturing a fish sauce called garum that was so popular it was shipped to every corner of the Roman world. Think of it like ancient ketchup, except way more expensive and considered a luxury item. The houses of the wealthy weren't just homes. They were architectural masterpieces with gardens, fountains, and artwork that modern museums would kill to own. But even the working-class homes showed signs of comfort and prosperity that tell us this was a society where ordinary people could live well. The religious scene was fascinating and complex. Roman gods, Egyptian deities, mystery cults. Pompeii had it all. They even had what archaeologists now call the sorcerer's house, a place where magical rituals were performed with tools and artifacts that looked like something from a fantasy movie. But perhaps most telling is how much they loved entertainment and leisure. Multiple theatres, countless taverns, brothels with elaborate frescoes, and public spaces designed for hanging out and socializing. These people knew how to live. They had created what seemed like the perfect life. Prosperous, diverse, entertaining, sophisticated. They were living like there was no tomorrow. Little did they know, for many of them, there literally wasn't. August 24th, 79. AD started like any other day in paradise. People went to work, kids played in the streets, merchants opened their shops. By sunset, one of the most prosperous cities in the Roman Empire would be completely erased from existence. What I'm about to tell you is the hour-by-hour breakdown of how an entire civilization died, and it's more terrifying than any horror movie ever made. Around 1 p.m., Mount Vesuvius exploded with a force that modern scientists say was 100,000 times more powerful than the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. But here's the thing that'll keep you up at night. This wasn't a sudden surprise attack. The mountain had been giving warnings for days. Small earthquakes, unusual animal behavior, springs drying up, all signs that we would recognize today as screaming alarms. But to the people of Pompeii, these were just minor inconveniences. The initial blast shot volcanic material 15 miles into the sky, so high that people in Rome, over 150 miles away, could see the eruption column. Imagine seeing a mushroom cloud on the horizon and knowing that somewhere, an entire world was ending. Phase 1 lasted about 6 hours, and here's where human psychology becomes absolutely fascinating and tragic. Pumice stones started raining down, some as big as golf balls. But they were relatively light, and people thought they could wait it out indoors. Big mistake. The pumice kept falling, and falling, and falling. Within hours, it was several feet deep in the streets. Roofs started collapsing under the weight. People who had decided to shelter in place found themselves trapped as doorways became blocked and buildings started failing. This is when panic set in. Families loaded carts with their most precious possessions, jewelry, money, religious artifacts, and tried to evacuate. But here's the heartbreaking part. Archaeologists have traced their escape routes through the volcanic debris layers, and what they found will haunt you. Picture this: a family with young children, pushing a cart loaded with everything they owned, struggling through streets now several feet deep in volcanic stones, moving slower and slower as the pumice kept falling, getting more and more exhausted, more and more desperate. Some of these families made it miles from the city before the final phase of the disaster caught up with them. Others never made it out of their neighborhoods. But Vesuvius wasn't finished playing with its victims. Around 6:30 a.m. on August 25th, roughly 18 hours after the nightmare began, the volcanic column collapsed. This created pyroclastic flows, superheated clouds of gas, ash, and volcanic material racing down the mountain at over 100 miles per hour. The temperature? Over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to kill instantly. Here's something that'll give you chills. These flows didn't just kill people. They killed them so fast that their bodies were frozen in whatever position they were in at that exact moment. Trying to shield their children, reaching for loved ones, covering their faces, running toward what they thought was safety. The first pyroclastic flow hit Herculaneum, a smaller city closer to the mountain, but more flows followed, each one reaching further from Vesuvius. The final flow that hit Pompeii was a wall of superheated death that moved faster than anyone could run and penetrated every building, every hiding place, every attempted shelter. What makes this disaster particularly tragic is that most of these deaths were completely preventable. If people had fled immediately when the eruption started, the majority could have escaped. But human nature, the tendency to underestimate danger, to go back for possessions, to wait for family members, created a perfect storm of deadly decisions. Some people actually made it out of the city and then went back to rescue family members or retrieve valuables. Others waited too long, thinking the danger would pass. Some were simply unable to flee due to age, illness, or because they were slaves, locked in buildings by masters who had already escaped. By the time Vesuvius finally quieted down, Pompeii lay buried under nearly 20 feet of volcanic material. The bustling, thriving, party-loving city had vanished from the landscape as if it had never existed. But here's the incredible irony. The same volcanic debris that killed everyone also preserved them perfectly. The ash created an oxygen-free environment that prevented decay, essentially freeze-drying organic materials and creating perfect molds of human bodies, wooden objects, even loaves of bread. Pompeii had become an accidental time capsule, a snapshot of Roman life so detailed and so perfectly preserved that when it was rediscovered 1,700 years later, it would rewrite everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. But the real story isn't in the buildings or the artifacts. It's in the people. And what they experienced in those final moments will break your heart. What I'm about to share with you aren't just archaeological discoveries. These are the final moments of real people facing unimaginable terror, and recent scientific advances have revealed details so intimate and heartbreaking that they'll stay with you long after this video ends. Before we dive in, I need you to remember something. Every body, every preserved moment we're about to discuss was once a living person with hopes, fears, families, and dreams, just like yours. Let's start with a discovery that made international headlines: the Garden of the Fugitives. 13 bodies were found here, men, women, and children, who were trying to escape during the final pyroclastic flow. But it's not just that they died together. It's how they died that reveals something profound about human nature. There's a man whose body is positioned directly over a small child, his arms forming a protective shield. A woman clutching what appears to be jewelry, or maybe she was trying to protect her face from the searing heat. These aren't just victims of a natural disaster. They're parents, children, neighbors, each with their own story of love, sacrifice, and terror. But here's the discovery that literally made archaeologists cry. In 2021, they found the body of a pregnant woman in a villa outside the city. Advanced scanning technology revealed not just her remains, but the perfectly preserved skeleton of her unborn child. Think about that for a moment. This woman was trying to escape to safety, carrying new life, when the pyroclastic flow overtook her. Her final moments weren't just about her own survival. She was trying to save her future child too. Now, you've probably heard of the lovers of Pompeii. two figures found embracing in their final moments. For decades, people assumed they were lovers dying in each other's arms. But recent DNA analysis revealed something unexpected. They were both men, and one was wearing a gold bracelet suggesting higher social status. Were they lovers, father and son, master and slave, friends helping each other? We'll never know for certain, but their final embrace tells us something universal about the human need for connection when facing death. Here's something that'll give you chills. The graffiti and household items show us that these people were living completely normal lives right up until the end. In one house, archaeologists found a piece of graffiti that reads, "Marcus loves Spendusa," a 2,000-year-old love note that could have been written yesterday. In another location, they discovered what translates to "I was here," with a date, humanity's eternal desire to leave a mark, to be remembered. That person got their wish in the most tragic way possible. One of the most devastating recent discoveries involves a young slave found locked in a room during the eruption. The villa's owner was discovered nearby, apparently trying to escape while carrying a bag of gold coins. This raises haunting questions. Did the owner forget about the slave in his panic? Was the slave deliberately abandoned? Or was this just tragic timing? The preservation of organic materials has allowed scientists to reconstruct not just how people died, but what they were doing in their final hours. In one bakery, they found loaves of bread still in the oven, bread that was being baked when Vesuvius erupted. The baker's body was found nearby, and analysis showed he had been eating dates and drinking wine shortly before his death. These details transform abstract historical figures into real people with real lives, fears, and hopes. But not all the stories are about victims. Recent excavations have revealed incredible evidence of heroism and sacrifice. In one house, archaeologists found a man who appears to have died while trying to break through a wall, possibly attempting to reach family members trapped in an adjacent building. His hands were still positioned, as if he was digging, when the superheated gas overcame him. Other discoveries show the incredible lengths people went to try to survive. In the Sarno baths, a group barricaded themselves in a stone room, apparently believing the walls would protect them. They were wrong, but their attempt shows how people tried to use logic and reasoning, even facing an incomprehensible disaster. Another group was found in a boat at the ancient harbour, trying to escape by sea. The boat was loaded with coins, jewellery, and valuables, everything these people considered worth saving. But the pyroclastic flow reached the water before they could set sail. Here's where modern science gets absolutely incredible. CT scans of the plaster casts don't just show us body positions. They reveal evidence of disease, injury, diet, even dental health. Many Pompeians had surprisingly good teeth, suggesting they ate healthier than people in many later historical periods. What emerges from all these individual stories is a picture of a community facing disaster with the full range of human responses: panic and courage, selfishness and sacrifice, hope and despair. These weren't anonymous victims. They were people living full, complex lives who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Their preserved final moments remind us that catastrophe can strike anyone, anywhere, at any time. More importantly, they show us that when facing the unthinkable, humans instinctively reach for each other, protect each other, and try to save what matters most. But these human stories are just the beginning. What archaeologists have discovered in the last few years using cutting-edge technology is rewriting everything we thought we knew about Roman society. And some of these revelations are absolutely mind-blowing. What I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about ancient Rome. The technology we have today has unlocked secrets from Pompeii that are so shocking, so detailed, and so unexpected that they're forcing historians to rewrite textbooks. And some of these discoveries are so recent that most people have never heard about them. Let's start with the discovery that made headlines worldwide in 2020, the Thermopolium of Regio 5. This isn't just another ancient restaurant, it's a perfectly preserved snapshot of Roman fast food culture that's so detailed, it's almost supernatural. The serving counter is decorated with colourful frescoes showing the actual foods sold there, like an ancient menu board. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Using chemical analysis, researchers identified the exact contents of the storage containers. Duck, goat, pig, fish, snails, and crushed fava beans mixed with wine, basically a 2,000-year-old energy drink. One container even had traces of ground cicadas. Apparently, Romans had a more adventurous palate than most of us. But the real breakthrough came when they found human remains associated with the restaurant. The owner's body was discovered with a cloth bag containing over 600 coins, his daily earnings. This is the first direct evidence of how much money a typical Roman business made in a day, giving us unprecedented insight into their economy. In 2021, archaeologists made a discovery that sounds like something from a movie: a completely intact ceremonial chariot buried with 2 harnesses in a villa north of Pompeii. This 4-wheeled bronze and tin vehicle was decorated with erotic scenes and mythological figures. But here's the kicker: it wasn't just any chariot. The level of craftsmanship suggests it belonged to someone of extremely high status, possibly even Roman nobility. And it was found in a stable with 3 horses still wearing their bronze-decorated harnesses. Now, prepare to have your mind blown. In 2022, researchers completed the first comprehensive genetic study of Pompeii victims, and the results were absolutely staggering. The population was far more genetically diverse than anyone expected. Ancestry from across the Mediterranean, North Africa, and even Central Asia. This confirms that Pompeii wasn't just cosmopolitan for its time, it was more diverse than most modern cities. One of the most controversial recent finds is what archaeologists are calling the Sorcerer's House, a dwelling containing what appears to be a complete set of magical implements. Bronze vessels, mirrors, crystals, carved gemstones, phallic amulets, and what looks like a primitive astrolabe for astronomical calculations. This discovery is forcing scholars to completely reconsider how common magical practices were in Roman society. Instead of being fringe activities, this evidence suggests that what we might call magic was integrated into daily life, used for protecting houses, ensuring business success, and predicting the future. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed that what we've excavated so far represents only about 2/3 of ancient Pompeii. There are entire neighborhoods still buried, including what appear to be major public buildings and possibly temples that could completely change our understanding of the city's layout. In 2023, archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary. A complete Roman kitchen with actual food remains still inside. Not just cooking tools, but carbonized bread, dried fruits, nuts, and what appears to be an entire wheel of cheese. Chemical analysis revealed that the bread contained honey and was made with a type of wheat that's no longer commonly grown. This gives us incredible insights into both Roman agriculture and daily eating habits. Here's where modern technology gets really crazy. Artificial intelligence analysis of Pompeii's vast collection of graffiti has revealed that literacy rates were much higher than anyone thought. Even more surprising, women wrote graffiti at nearly the same rate as men, completely challenging assumptions about female education in Roman society. Recent excavations have uncovered something fascinating: evidence that Pompeii had been dealing with natural disasters for years before Vesuvius erupted. Repair work throughout the city dates to the major earthquake of 62 AD, showing that residents had become accustomed to rebuilding after seismic events. Perhaps most incredibly, new analysis techniques have allowed scientists to create hour-by-hour reconstructions of how the eruption affected different parts of the city. Some neighborhoods remained habitable several hours longer than others, meaning residents experienced the disaster at different speeds. Some people had time for multiple escape attempts. Others were trapped almost immediately. The preservation continues to amaze scientists. They found wooden furniture, fabric, even papyrus scrolls that are slowly being unrolled using advanced imaging techniques. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of how Romans actually lived. Here's the thing that gives me chills. Pompeii isn't a finished story. Every year brings new discoveries, new technologies, new insights. What we think we know about Roman society continues to evolve with each excavation season. But understanding what happened to Pompeii isn't just about archaeology and history. It's about understanding the incredible forces of nature that destroyed it, forces that are still active today and could strike again at any moment. Here's something that'll keep you awake at night. Mount Vesuvius is still active, and the same geological forces that destroyed Pompeii 2,000 years ago are building pressure right now beneath 3 million people living in the shadow of this sleeping giant. What I'm about to tell you about the science behind volcanic eruptions will make you understand just how terrifyingly powerful and unpredictable these natural disasters really are. Mount Vesuvius sits on top of one of the most geologically dangerous spots on Earth. The African tectonic plate is slowly sliding beneath the Eurasian plate, creating immense pressure that's been building for millions of years. Think of it like a massive pressure cooker with no safety valve. The 79 AD eruption was what scientists call a Plinian eruption, the most explosive type possible. The energy released was equivalent to several hydrogen bombs going off simultaneously. The eruption column reached 20 miles high, well into the stratosphere, launching approximately 1.5 million tons of volcanic material per second into the atmosphere. Let me put that in perspective. That's like launching the equivalent of 150 blue whales into space every single second for hours on end. But here's what made this eruption so uniquely deadly. The magma had been sitting in underground chambers for centuries, slowly cooling and building pressure. This created magma rich in silica and dissolved gases, making it explosively volatile when it finally erupted. Imagine shaking a champagne bottle for 100 years and then suddenly popping the cork. The most lethal aspect wasn't the initial blast, it was the pyroclastic flows that followed. These superheated avalanches of gas, ash, and volcanic debris reached temperatures over 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit and speeds exceeding 450 miles per hour. Nothing can survive direct contact with a pyroclastic flow. Nothing. Here's the terrifying part. These flows don't follow predictable paths. They're denser than air, so they flow downhill like liquid, but they can jump over obstacles, change direction suddenly, and travel much farther than anyone expects. They follow the landscape in ways that make evacuation planning incredibly difficult. The reason Pompeii was so perfectly preserved comes down to a perfect storm of chemistry and physics. The initial pumice created an oxygen-free environment, preventing bacterial decay. The subsequent ash deposits hardened around organic materials, creating natural molds. Over time, organic matter decomposed, leaving hollow spaces that perfectly preserved shapes of bodies, objects, even fabric. Here's what's absolutely chilling. There were warning signs before the 79 AD eruption. Earthquakes had been increasing for months. Springs dried up. Animals behaved strangely. These are all signs that modern volcanologists would recognize as screaming alarms. But the people of Pompeii had no scientific framework to understand what these signs meant. Today, Vesuvius is monitored by one of the most sophisticated volcanic monitoring systems in the world. Seismometers detect tiny earthquakes that might indicate magma movement. Gas sensors analyze emissions from the crater for chemical signatures of increasing activity. Satellites track ground deformation that could suggest rising magma. But here's the terrifying reality. Even with all this technology, volcanologists still can't predict exactly when an eruption will occur. They can identify increased risk, but volcanic systems are incredibly complex, involving variables that can change rapidly and unpredictably. What's most concerning is that the area around Vesuvius now has a population over 20 times larger than in 79 AD. Naples, Ercolano, Torre del Greco, and dozens of smaller communities are all within the potential impact zone of a major eruption. Italian authorities have evacuation plans that could theoretically move hundreds of thousands of people to safety. But implementing such plans during an actual emergency would be an unprecedented logistical nightmare. The geological record shows Vesuvius has erupted dozens of times since 79 AD, with major eruptions roughly every few hundred years. The most recent significant eruption was in 1944 during World War II, which destroyed several towns and covered Naples in ash. That eruption was much smaller than the 79 AD catastrophe, but it proved that Vesuvius is very much alive and dangerous. Major volcanic eruptions don't just affect local areas, they can impact global weather patterns. The 79 AD eruption likely caused temporary cooling across the northern hemisphere due to volcanic ash blocking sunlight, potentially affecting crop yields and weather as far away as China. Right now, as you're watching this video, Vesuvius shows signs of low-level activity. Small earthquakes occur regularly. Gas emissions fluctuate. Ground temperatures in some areas remain elevated. These aren't immediate danger signs, but they're reminders that the mountain is very much alive. Scientists know with certainty that Vesuvius will erupt again. The question isn't if, it's when. And when it does, the impact could be far more devastating than anything that happened in ancient times, simply because of the massive population now living in harm's way. Understanding the science behind Pompeii's destruction isn't just academic curiosity. It's a crucial tool for preparing for future disasters and understanding the incredible forces that continue to shape our planet. But more than that, it's a reminder of the most important lesson Pompeii has to teach us about life, death, and what really matters. As we reach the end of our journey through Pompeii's incredible story, I want to share something with you that goes far beyond ancient history. What happened in Pompeii 2,000 years ago contains lessons that could literally save your life and change how you think about the time you have left. The most immediate lesson is about disaster preparedness and human psychology. The people of Pompeii ignored warning signs, underestimated danger, and made decisions based on normalcy bias, the tendency to assume that things will continue as they always have. Sound familiar? Today, millions of people live in earthquake zones, floodplains, hurricane corridors, and yes, volcanic regions, often with inadequate preparation for disasters that scientists know will eventually occur. Let me ask you something. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you know your evacuation routes? Do you have supplies ready? If you're like most people, The answer is probably no. And that's exactly the same mindset that killed thousands in Pompeii. But here's what's truly remarkable about Pompeii. Walking through those ruins feels like visiting a preserved neighborhood that could exist today. The graffiti, the restaurants, the diverse population, the entertainment venues, the political campaigns. It all feels familiar because human nature hasn't changed. The people who died in Pompeii weren't different from us. They had the same hopes, fears, relationships, and daily concerns that we do. They woke up that morning thinking about work, family, plans for the future, just like you did today. This brings us to perhaps the most important lesson Pompeii teaches: the preciousness of ordinary moments. Those people had no idea that August 24th would be their last day. They went about normal routines, buying bread, chatting with neighbors, working, arguing, loving, not knowing that these mundane activities were about to become their final acts. Their preserved final moments should make us ask ourselves, if today were your last day, would you be satisfied with how you spent it? Are you taking the people around you for granted? Are you putting off important conversations, experiences, or relationships? Modern archaeology has shown us that history isn't just about famous people and major events. It's about ordinary individuals living ordinary lives. The baker with bread in his oven, the family trying to escape together, the lovers embracing in their final moments. These personal stories often teach us more than any royal biography. The continuing discoveries at Pompeii demonstrate how advancing technology keeps revealing new insights about the past. This should remind us that our understanding of history and science and life itself is constantly evolving. What we think we know today might be completely different tomorrow. Pompeii's preservation of social inequality, political corruption, and cultural diversity provides unfiltered insights into how societies actually function. This reminds us that historical evidence often tells a more honest story than official records written by those in power. Perhaps most importantly, Pompeii shows us the relationship between human civilization and natural forces. Despite all their engineering, architecture, and military might, the Romans were ultimately powerless against geological forces they didn't understand. This lesson has new urgency in our age of climate change. Like the residents of Pompeii, we're living with environmental risks whose full consequences remain uncertain. The difference is that we have scientific knowledge to understand many of these risks, making our response choices more conscious and consequential. Here's something beautiful and haunting. The destruction of Pompeii created a unique form of immortality for its residents. People who died 2,000 years ago continue to teach us, move us, and connect with us across centuries. Their final moments have become more famous than the lives of emperors from the same era. This suggests something profound about the power of authentic human experience to transcend time. It also reminds us to pay attention to our present moments, because we never know which ordinary day might become extraordinary in ways we can't imagine. The fact that Pompeii continues revealing new secrets reminds us that some stories never truly end. Every excavation, every technological breakthrough, every scientific analysis adds new chapters to a narrative that began with catastrophe, but has become a testament to human curiosity, resilience, and connection across time. In the end, Pompeii's greatest gift might be its reminder that every day is both ordinary and extraordinary. Every community is both fragile and resilient. Every human life is both temporary and eternal in its impact on others. The voices preserved in volcanic ash continue speaking to us today, reminding us that the human story, with all its tragedy, beauty, complexity, and hope, continues to unfold one precious moment at a time. So as you go about your normal routine tomorrow, getting coffee, checking your phone, interacting with family and friends, remember the people of Pompeii. Remember that ordinary moments are extraordinary. Remember that the people around you matter. Remember that time is the most valuable thing we have. And remember that 2,000 years from now, if archaeologists discover traces of our civilization, what will they learn about how we chose to spend our brief time here? What stories will our preserved moments tell about what we valued, how we treated each other, and what we considered worth saving? If this journey through Pompeii has fascinated you as much as it has me, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Because next week, we're diving into another perfectly preserved ancient site that rivals Pompeii in sheer archaeological importance and will absolutely blow your mind. But before you go, I'm genuinely curious. What part of Pompeii's story surprised you the most? The recent discoveries? The human stories? The volcanic science? Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and I love discussing these incredible historical mysteries with you. And if you know someone who loves history, archaeology, or just incredible true stories, share this video with them. These stories deserve to be heard, and you sharing helps keep these ancient voices alive. Remember, history isn't just about the past. It's about understanding the timeless aspects of human nature that connect all of us across the centuries. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey through time. Until next week, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never take your ordinary moments for granted. I'll see you in the next video.